Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone joining us today. I'm pleased to welcome you to our webinar on a Sport for All Future, redefining collaboration between international and national sport federations. My name is Rachel Mate. I'll be moderating today's webinar. I'm confident that you will enjoy today's program. It's been carefully curated with a diverse set of speakers and panelists to offer different perspectives from both sides here on our topic of discussion. Before we go any further, I'd like to advise you that this webinar is recorded and it will be posted on our TAFISA YouTube page and the website. Your microphones are muted by default to ensure a smooth running of the webinar, and we ask that you drop any messages, comments, and questions using the chat box and the Q&A function in Zoom. Finally, we ask that everyone could share your name, your organization, and where you're joining us from so we can appreciate our diverse audience from all across the world. So without further ado, that's enough housekeeping, and it's time to kick off the webinar. Today, we are starting off with TAFISA Secretary General Jean-François Laurent. Jean-François, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to the final conference of the Interact Plus project, which is taking the form of this webinar. As some of you might already know, Interact Plus and Interact has been developed and implemented for the past 5 years, thanks to the support of the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. And before going any further, I would of course like to thank the EU for its ongoing support to the project, to thank all of you, the participants in this webinar, for joining us today, but more specifically to thank all of the project partners of both the Interact and the Interact Plus projects who have worked tirelessly over the past years for making this project successful. And finally, I would also like to thank all of the Interact Plus advisory board members who have been accompanying us from the very beginning to share the knowledge and experience, therefore ensuring that the project answers to the needs and the expectation of international and national sport federations and organizations. Interact started back in 2020 as a project for international sport organizations and federations only, and it has indeed along the way enlarged to become a project for not only international but also national sport federations alike, as we realize the importance not only to support IFs in developing sport for all, but also to support their own national federations to take action in the sport for all field. We are therefore very proud to say that all of the outputs of the project, and specifically the Sport for Label and the capacity building training, which you will hear more about today, are adapted to both international and national federations. That's also why today's webinar is focused on the theme, A Sport for Future, international and national sport federations team up for impact, as it is our strong belief that to make a change, we need to work hand in hand, obviously. And we are grateful to have with us today speakers and panelists that represent both international and national federations and will be able to debate how together they can interact and strive to create a better world through sport for all. As mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, this is the final conference of the project, but it's not an end, it's only a new beginning, as we would like to already announce from now that the project will be sustained by TAFISA and all project partners in the coming years. So at the end of this webinar, we will launch our call for applications for the Interact Plus trainings in 2026, and all interested federations will be invited to apply for the Interact Sport for All label. I look forward to listening to today's discussions and debate, and I wish you a great webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-François, for the warm welcome. Interact has been a very special project for TAFISA for a long time, and I can only emphasize your words that we are excited to appreciate what we have accomplished and look forward to how it can continue in the future. So to set the stage for the impact that we know comes from Interact, I'd like to introduce our Impulse speaker, Aurélie Van Hoye, a senior lecturer and researcher at the Universities of Limerick and Universities of Lorraine. Aurélie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rachel. So good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. So I would like to set up a little bit the scene of why we set Interact up and how can we also think about this project as a way of leveraging sports for all across international and national sports federation. So as responsible of the scientific work package of this Interact project, maybe I can showcase a little bit the literature review and the science that is behind Interact, so that you can understand why we decided to build this capacity building accreditation and run this project. So from a literature review that we have been conducting through the project, we have identified that there are benefits for different stakeholders. So there are benefits for sports participants themselves in terms of feeling that they are being sporty as a social identity, that there is an enhancement in terms of better fitness, strength, body composition, and bone health in terms of physical health, but also in terms of cognitive health in regard to academic performance, but quality of life and sense of accomplishment also. So those are positive benefits for sports participants at the end of all the cascade that we have. But it's not only about individual, it's also about sports club and what they can get from these type of projects. And we know that sports for all help to develop social skills, to build relationship and trust between the volunteers within sports club, but also limits, again, anxiety, stress, and depression among those volunteers, and foster peer learning. So those would be benefits that you will find at the club level. And we have also investigated what would be the benefits for the international and national sports federation themselves. And those type of programs and those types of activities helps to foster employment and volunteering opportunities, especially by clarifying their role and being more recognized among sports clubs for the social value that they bring. This helps also encouraging diversity and inclusion as human rights, which is really important and is one of the most valued key point when delivering sports. It's contributing to economic development. So different studies have shown that for every euros invested, a return on investment of 19 euros is calculated. And it's also helped to showcase how sports can be recognized in terms of addressing societal issue and in terms also of contributing to society in general. So those are definitely the benefits that we have identified by the development of sports for all among international and national sports federation at different level also, which help us to showcase a little bit that it's not only a benefit for sports participants, but also a way of building resilience and strength among sports organizations. While knowing those benefits, what's important to know also is what's the current state of affairs when we look at sports for all implementation. And we have looked a little bit at numbers and what's happening among EU countries and sports federation. And it's not that there is a commitment gap because we are convinced about the benefits. It's more that an implementation gap exists among the different stakeholders to take over sports for all in their organization. So if we look at the last European Union physical activity policy monitoring, we have identified that only a quarter of EU countries are implementing sports for all program in sports club, which is one of the lowest rated indicators across the different ones that are measured by the EU. Secondly, if we look a little bit at numbers and different studies that have been conducted among international sports federation, we know that half of the sports federation do target recreational sports. So half of them do not consider this as a hot topic and do not invest in it. And more interestingly, from our perspective, if we are looking a little bit deeper into that studies, it's not, again, a lack of commitment or vision because 90% of those sports federations have it as target. But when we look at measurable objectives of resources, it's just fall down to 30%. So it's clearly an implementation gap and a know-how gap rather than a commitment and convincement gap. Looking into that, what we have tried to do through this project is looking at what were the biggest barriers that we can identify, but also what were the key leverage. Just to start a little bit about the barriers and the different difficulties that we have tried to address through the project. First, there is a lack of human resources, especially on recreational sports and sports for all. Second, what we see on those type of programs or development is that sports is mostly reactive in regard to solving problems rather than being proactive in terms of promoting health and participation through sports. So it's also changing the mindset and the organizational vision of how this could be addressed. What's important also is the question of accountability and evaluation system. So far in society, sports for performance is much more value than sports for all, and also much more funded. So if policymakers, but also if all of us could lobby more into the recognition of sports for all as a way of serving the society rather than focusing solely on performance, we might change the landscape and open new way of promoting sports for all. In terms of leverage, some key points that have been developed in the capacity building of the project and that have to be addressed if we really want sports for all to develop are the following one. The first one is looking at the quality of staff and being able to develop training and to be able to build capacity of those staff. The second one is getting policy change and being able to change the policy landscape. The third one is the alignment of sports for all with responsibilities and users' needs. And the last point is something that is very specific in regard to how sports is organized, especially this voluntary nature, is the question of being able to propose something that is flexible, progressive, and adaptable for each sports club context and each cultural and country and sports system context. So those are key points that needs to be addressed if we really want sports for all to be developed tomorrow. The way we have considered that within the Interact project, or the way we have built what is going to be presented today, is scientifically based on different literature review, but also we have developed with the partners a theory of action to be able to route both the different outputs into an implementation pathway that can be both clear, but also easy to understand and easy to evaluate, so that we can also show how much these outputs are helpful and can trigger new mechanism and leverage for the future of sports for all. So these are the ones that you're gonna be presented now, and I hope this give you a frame of understanding of why and what we have addressed in this project from a scientific perspective.
Thank you, Aurélie. Yes, the research behind Interact has always been a cornerstone of the project, not only the benefits that you talked about that can come to sport organizations and their clubs and further on their members, but also we did a lot of research about looking at the impact of the trainings and used our findings not only to advertise our trainings, but to adapt the trainings better to the people at the sport organizations and representatives. So thank you again, and for all your work in the project. So next, in line with our webinar theme of redefining collaboration between international and national sport federations, we wanted to have a case study that focused on this collaboration. So we have two case studies, both from the same sport, but at the international and national level. So I'm pleased to welcome John Liljelund from International Floorball Federation and Carlos Lopez from the Spanish Floorball Federation. I give the floor over to them to introduce themselves, their organization, and their work. So they're starting off with a presentation, and then we'll have some time for discussion as well with them. So if you have any questions for John or Carlos, please use the Q&A function to write in. and we'll be able to direct those questions to them. So thank you both. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good day, good evening, good morning to everyone. And thank you very much for the opportunity to first of all have being able to be part of the Interact Erasmus Plus project, and also the possibility of taking the learning of the whole process. We will, with Carlos, try to present quite quickly a few ideas about how National International Federation works with the 3v3 floorball. Carlos, next slides, please. You have to press the arrow. Thanks. And next one. So just to give you a short idea of where we are in respect with the floor for us, floorball for all, we believe quite strongly in the fact that we have a number of important, so to say, factors that affects the spreading of the sport, and we see the idea of that floorball is inclusive, fun, fair, innovative, and supportive. And in order to be able to do that, we believe, and our sport has grown from the mass participation, not from the elite. And in principle, before COVID, which is quite important, an important thing to recognize, the biggest, so to say, participation group were adults over the age of 35 playing in the different leagues. Next one, please. So the vision we have is we have three very different levels of members, where we have very semi-professional, professional countries, and then we have a little bit smaller ones on the other end. So our mission is to lead, support, and serve our members, associations, together with the athletes and all other stakeholders, to promote, develop, protect, and spread the game of floorball. And the vision is that we would be the most exclusive team sport, providing any kind of people to be able to play the sport on the same level, regardless if they are small, big, whatever, and with over 1 million registered players on all continents. Next one, please. So the core values that we are talking about is inclusiveness, and as we are equal, flexible, and open. And this is actually going back then to the sports for all, because for us, which is not a major, so to say, TV or sports in the big media, for us, spreading the sport goes through the grassroots. And in the grassroots, it's mainly the schools, but it's also then universities, workplaces, armies, things like this, where a lot of people get together. And it's equally important to, so to say, to be able to get there. Floorball, which is a really, really fast sport, just give you an example that on the field of play, which is 40 meters long, you will actually be able to go from a goal scoring situation in one end to the other field of the end 40 meters away in less than 3 seconds. So, and we also think that we are pretty innovative in the ways we want to progress and go forward. Next one, Carlos. So what we've done now, starting from this year, that we have revamped our whole committee structure, and we have actually, I have marked with red, we have actually in the development sector, we have a committee for grassroots and youth development and one for floorball for all. And it's obvious that, as you can see, that in our development, we are not only talking about developing the members, we are also talking about developing the opportunities for people to play and get more people to play floorball and spreading it. And at the same time, in the members, so to say, section, we have the question which is related to the license system and the possibility of having, so to say, a second discipline among the normal floorball, which is now the 3 versus 3. Next one, Carlos. So the mission for us is of course then to develop strategies to ensure that opportunities for everybody to play floorball everywhere is possible. And here we are, of course, a little bit easier because we can play indoor, we can play outdoor, we can play in principle of any kind of almost flat surface, preferably flat, but it can also be a different time. And this is of course also the looking on different versions that we have. But the most important is, of course, to look upon how we can promote the programs towards our member federations and fostering gender balance at all the levels of the sports where we believe that the 3 versus 3 is a good one. Next one, Carlos. So, why Floorball for All? We have 81 members, and it's very important to have a version where we can have versions that attracts new players, the visibility and awareness of the sport, because it's not big enough. And so for us as a governing body, it's more to create educational materials and spreading the new game format, because we don't really have any players. We don't own any players. The players are always owned by the national federations. So our main activities is 3 versus 3 floorball, street floorball, which is an outdoor summer version, providing educational materials that we have a lot of. We have, for example, a Learn, Start, Play guide. We have a guide for urban floorball, which is a 3 versus 3 version, an earlier one. And then we have a school curriculum for schools on how to run a semester of schools. But then, so to say, we also have different formats like walking floorball, which is for you're not allowed to run. It's played in, you can play it anywhere, about 10 square meters, 2 versus 2. You have 100 centimeters floorball, which is for people over a waistline of 100 centimeters. You have kids and parent floorball, and then different school versions. And the idea is, of course, that to enter into schools and universities, to have more players. And we have been working with Special Olympics for the inclusion part of their athletes, where we now have about, I think there is about 70 countries with programs and over 50,000 athletes. So this is to give you an idea of how we look upon the Floorball for All within IFF. Carlos, I think it's over to you now.
Yes, thank you, John. Let's see how all these comes towards a national approach, in this case from Floorball Spain. And I like to start with a simple sentence that it says here, is creating a sport for all ages and people through the power of the 3 versus 3 format. That we really believe that this format can approach us to the sport for all mission and idea. But how can we do that? Let me try to be precise on that. Of course, Floorball Spain and all national countries primarily focuses on competition, national leagues, organizing caps, being aware of the national teams, participation in events, etc. And even the floorball itself naturally supports the sport for all concept. We have seen that we need to maximize that impact. And the way to maximize that impact clearly goes to the 3 versus 3 version, because it's dynamic, is very, very good for high player involvement, is perfect for mixed gender teams and for including teams and people from different ages and skill levels. So what are the main activities that we are doing and we are planning to do towards this implementation? We can see here 3 boxes that we have defined. First of all, universities running active campaigns. For example, do you play floorball? Into the universities. We can target university students to the new form and the new format. So we can include them on playing, we can include them integrated in the sport and creating also new teams. The second box, we call it new frontiers. We can go out of the traditional arenas. So we can go out to new centers, like we can call it urban 3 versus 3 events in shopping centers, in central plazas, town squares, so we can bring the sport really to everyone. And the third box that is defined here, we call it full inclusion. As John has already mentioned, we have a very close collaboration, for example, with the Special Olympics. And we have also participated in initiatives like the European Week of Sport, for example, that it happened last September. So we can adapt the sport, our sport, floorball, for everyone, from very young ones to elderly people, and with different skill abilities. So what are the benefits that this new format can bring to us? Obviously, the rapid expansion. We are needing smaller rinks. We call the rink where we play. We are needing few players, and all that together make it easier to organize anywhere the participation in the sport or organize an event. Of course, that will attract new demographics. New people will join our sport, and the sport will be open to everybody, from youth with simplified rules, from beginners to seniors. We are adapting the sport to different places. As I said, breaking the barrier that a large indoor arena is needed normally, so we can set urban settings like school gyms, outdoor plazas, even shopping centers. So this will bring us really the sport for all. And of course, the social impact altogether will create an access to foster a united community, allowing mixed genders, mixed ability, and again, naming this collaboration with Special Olympics. If we go to the relationships of the National Federation, in our case with IFF, we have to mention this incredible milestone for both IFF and also Floorball Spain. That is the nomination of the 2026 3x3 World Floorball Championships that will be played in Madrid, in San Lorenzo del Escorial, is a town in the north of Madrid. And it will be a unique event for the first time ever. This will be the third time that we are celebrating these World Floorball Championships, and we have given it a unique identity for the first time. So this will be both IFF and Spain a fantastic occasion to demonstrate that the 3x3 is a really power for the format. Now back to John.
Thank you very much. So 3v3 is actually, if we go back to the values, 3v3 is actually from where the sport started. And this is quite interesting because it started from North America in the 60s as a hippie sport with the idea, and then the Swedes took it back to Sweden. And after a number of rule changes, we have now actually went in then to the fact that it's the most used training form for 5v5. Most of the teams from the top elite to the young children train 3v3 because in order to get more contacts with the ball. So it's flexible. You can play it with or without a goalie, and you can play it anywhere. And it went from street to urban to a 3v3, which is a much faster version than normal floorball. It sounds funny, but it is. And with different rules, shorter minibus version. So we have a number of less players so that you can easily move it in a minibus. And we have a special application from that for Special Olympics. The benefits is of course it's the best format for mixed practice, where the physical size of the player doesn't make a difference. Speed is not an issue. You can be very good in floorball even if you can't run, if you have good hands, and it can be worked as a workplace game. It will bring us hopefully new countries. It's much more financially sustainable because moving and creating the in a lot of countries of the global south and east, and also in Latin America, there are no 20x40 fields and venues, and it's a good version for a multi-sport game. So for us, it's something that we are building on. In order to be able to run it for the next one, please. So we have already for a number of years been promoting several different recreational game formats like the street floorball, which has been played in a number of our member countries already for about 20 years during summer in tours. The 3v3 is actually a form of floorball where everything started, and most used for us in the trainings. But it's flexible, with or without goalie. It can be played anywhere: indoors, pavement, beach, any flat surface. Next one, please. So the development of the 3v3 format has been quite interesting. We think that, for example, as I told earlier, that it has been played in the US from the start, but in Switzerland, they still play 3 versus 3 as the main format of the sport for anything under the top 3 divisions. And we believe that we can bring a lot of things into it. And we actually introduced urban floorball as an outdoor version of the 3 versus 3 already in 2017 for the Buenos Aires Youth Olympic Games. We were very close to be there, but in the end not. So if we think about this from the perspective that we will believe that we can bring a lot of added value to the sport and also prolong player careers by the 3 versus 3, because then when you get older, it's maybe not that nice to run the 40 meters. So next one, Carlos. So we believe that we introduced the official format in 2023. It's faster. It's 2 times 10 minutes. It's in a rink of 11 times 22 meters. So it fits almost anywhere. The goalkeeper can throw in the ball when it goes out, and the goalkeeper can score a goal. So it's actually, it's much more dynamic. It's much more interesting to watch. And very interestingly, it's not at all the same countries who are very good on the 5 versus 5 version, who are good or will manage here. So, for example, we had Ukraine as the silver medalist in the men's, and they have never qualified for the men's World Floorball Championships in the 5 versus 5. It's a minibus versions with 8 to 10 players. We are still trying to bring it down and to 5 to 6 players plus a goalkeeper. You can play it anywhere. And it's the similar application for the Special Olympics, where we believe that it's the best example of how we have been able to spread the format. Next one, Carlos. So we believe also that again, workplace, mixed things that we can work with this one. And we see this as the key initiative to spread and develop our sport. We don't believe, if we compare for floorball, because the problem is that it's a stick sport. And of course, it's hockey, so field hockey or ice hockey, which are, so to say, the markets. And if you think about the fact that there are, field hockey has a lot of more member federations, ice hockey is somewhere around 80, 85, I think it's the number at the moment. And we have 81 members. So we, in order for us to be able to spread the sport, we believe that this is the way we will be able to bring the possibility of going forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now my turn to finalize this presentation with a short presentation of how the strategy of the implementation of this format has been grown and planned in Spain. First of all, we had to build the base, and the most important is the educational pathway that we have taken. School championships, obviously that's the primary entry point. So we have to integrate floorball into the physical education curriculum. We have some documents already created by the International Federation, and that obviously will create the natural funnel for young players. As I mentioned before, university leagues, like the one that we have already done last year, that it was in the Francisco de Vitoria University. We celebrate an open 3 versus 3 tournament, really very good one, and we get very good expectations. So we are celebrating this year, well, the coming year, 2026 will be the 2nd edition, and we have opened it to all of Spain. And I have to say that for now, we are having a very good expectations for that. These initiatives at the university will retain talent and will have a bridge to close the gap with club playing. And we also have to think not only on the game itself, but also beyond the game. So all these academic events will facilitate us, not just playing places or playing events. Also, we are having a very good opportunity for training referees and coaches, but also a very good, important part of all events, that is the volunteers, that are essential for any sport ecosystem. So talking about beyond the arena, okay, what is the impact of the 3 versus 3 World Floorball Championships will bring us? First, the concept itself. Let me insist on we can bring the physical barrier that represents having a sport always set up into an indoor hall. First, because there is a lack of indoor halls available, and second, because we can bring the game to the people. Instead of bringing the people to the game, we change the concept and we bring the sport to the people. This will represent a different implementation and total open implementation into the big public, let's say, with high visibility events in urban centers. I mentioned here the one that we celebrate in Plaza de España, here in a town near Madrid, within the program and the calendar of the European Week of Sport last September. And that turned a public space into a pop arena. And the impact was immediate. We exposed the sport to non-players, to families, to casual observers. So drastically and very easily, we increase the potential of the participation in the sport. But we have to be realistic. We precise aid and support for all these initiatives. Let me mention 3. Okay, institutional and financial support. Obviously, the implementation of this format will open us opportunities to apply to public funding, coming from the top ones that in Spain is run by the Spanish Sport Council, to regional governments, municipal governments. So we now have an open door to apply for these fundings. Of course, also the private ones, corporate sponsorship, interested sponsors and partners in the community. Now they have an open door to include our sport into them. And we also need the town and municipality help in terms of granting the access to infrastructures that they have in their own towns. This will bring us a very good chance for the grassroots. We are having better training and resources. We are needing coaching materials and training programs, but especially low-cost equipment to bring to the schools, to bring to the universities, to bring to these small community centers that we are bringing the sport to. And obviously, more volunteer mobilization, that I said, is a key factor in any sport event. And to finalize, let me mention the media and digital promotion. We have to also be realistic what modern times are and what the new technologies can bring to the sport itself. So I think that we have almost fit in the time and I think it's been more or less clear. So thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, thank you. You guys were perfect. So thank you, John and Carlos, for the presentations. We appreciate getting an inside look at an initiative development and what this looks like at both the international and national level. I think we could appreciate the differences in what activities you were doing and the target groups you're working with, and just what it looked like at the different levels. So Carlos, you'll be joining our panel discussion. And John, before you leave, I wanted to ask one question about something that overlaps a bit with what we're discussing in the panel. But as we as you have applied this 3x3, I know it's not a new program, it's been going on for a while, but as the IF have applied this program to the national federations, is there something that happened or something you learned that was not expected, or whether this was an unexpected challenge or something that was an unexpected ease of implementation, just kind of from the IF perspective, what was it like to have this idea and this concept and bring it to the nationals?
I would say that the big surprise was actually especially for the CB, for the central board, when after they made the decision, how many teams actually adopted it. We made the decisions in December in 2023 to start the World Championships in 24, adjacent to the U19 World Championships, and we had in Finland, we had in Lahti. Probably we had over 40 teams participating, both men and women together, and also the fact that a lot of the federations have now started, so to say, national leagues of the 3v3. So we believe that the strategic move we have made has been the correct one, so to say, in this perspective. Still, there is of course child diseases in when you implement a new thing. And maybe there are things you hadn't thought about, and these are the ones we still need to work with. If that answers the question.
No, I think it's I think it does. That it's a continual process as well. You're always learning from it and continuing to address the needs of the national federations and what works best. Thank you both again. So as we move into the panel discussion, I want to encourage all of our audience members to write any questions you have using the Q&A function. We'd love to hear your questions. As we have 4 panelists joining us for this conversation. So Carlos will be continuing on from Spanish Floorball. We have Chiara Volonté from Tchoukball Italy, Daniel Price Croft from International Quadball Association, and Dillon Richardson from World Flying Disc. So welcome everyone, and I'll let them introduce themselves and their organization. So we'll start off with Chiara. Yes, welcome, and you can give a short introduction.
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation, first of all. Really, it's an interesting discussion, and I work for Tchoukball since '96 in Italy, but I am also I am working also for a European Federation and International Federation, and so I have the full vision about the problem we can have. I have to say that we are developing more or less same strategies like floorball, and I really appreciated your presentation. My experience is also experience of PE teacher, because I am a PE teacher. I have teaching in high school for 42 years now, retired, and working to develop Tchoukball across Italy, Europe, and more, and also developing the adapted form. In Italy, we have made the adaptation for Tchoukball in wheelchair in cooperation with the main hospital of Milano, Ospedale Niguarda. And we are working with other colleagues from Hungary and UK for developing the form of Tchoukball that we call Unify Tchoukball, to be close to the standard of Special Olympics. So we have people with different kind of disabilities, mental, relational disability, and people, we say, normal people playing together, making some adaptation of the rules that are not really changing the game, because our sport, Tchoukball, is inclusive itself, just be able to receive a ball, throw a ball, and so on. So we are working on many aspects also for adult and elderly, may I say.
Thank you. Yes, and then I'll also introduce Daniel Price Croft, or allow you to introduce yourself.
Hello, hi. Well, my name's Daniel Price Croft. I'm a trustee of the board, one of the trustees of the board of trustees of the IQA, which is the International Quadball Association. I'm currently based in Bilbao, in Spain, and again, it's incredibly interesting, especially hearing your talk just now, Carlos, because I feel that we all seem to be in this sort of transition phase of. I think we're much behind of floorball because I remember in high school in Tarragona in Catalonia playing floorball in PE. So it's one of those things like there are sports which are obviously growing at a bigger rate. Quadball, I believe we're further behind. Obviously, we've only been going for about 20 years, but we're at this stage where I think we're losing more people than we're gaining because I think it's something that also happens a lot in small sports where you need volunteers to help. You need volunteers to give their time. Is something that we always miss. And those who do give their time, there's maybe do too much. There's also burnout. And so being here and seeing how we all sort of share the same sort of worries, we all go in the same sort of directions. I also feel that aiming for the grassroots is a very big, it's a very important point. It's something we should all do because it's like football, it's like basketball. Like, why do people play football? Well, there's a culture, but there's also that's what you play when you're a child. When you're growing up, you play it in I don't know in the playground at school. You play after school. You play during school. You go to your local team. Creating this grassroots is extremely important and finding ways to sort of get into this grassroots, which is what you were talking about, Carlos, is definitely something we find very important. One thing we were thinking about is aiming at the universities who train PE teachers. So going to these universities and saying, "This is our sport. We just want to show you so you can show your future teachers who maybe later will go to the schools." One of the beauties of quadball is that it is a mixed gendered sport. So it's since the beginning, it's always been mixed gendered. We do have a gender rule, which is at the moment is max three. So it's max three people of the same gender, being male, female, and non-binary. Which is something that I'm not sure if there's any other sport that shares this at the moment. Oh, you share it as well? Well, then please tell us later if you have like a specific gender within it, or if it's just a free mixed sport.
It's a mixed sport, Tchoukball.
Is there a rule that's sort of like a gender rule as well? That was brilliant. But I think that's something that really helps out. Yeah, tell me later. I think that's something that really helps us grow. It can also limit the sport depending on what regions we are. But being here and sort of learning from all of you is definitely a very good experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. And yeah, I think it will be an interesting conversation. And then finally, to round out our international viewpoint, Dillon Richardson from World Flying Disc Federation, who's also going to later talk about their involvement in the project. Hi, Dillon.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. And yeah, my name is Dillon Richardson.
Oh, your audio went out.
Sorry. I'm Director of Membership and Development at the World Flying Disc Federation. So also known as Frisbee, which you might commonly know. So we're having our core disciplines of ultimate Frisbee and disc golf, which are becoming increasingly popular. We're having 122 national federations across all regions. And really our sport is inherent in sport for all. So it started way back in the day, or I guess you could trace our roots of, again, maybe not as far as football or basketball, but when the first flying disc or Frisbee was produced, it had printed on it play, catch, and event games. So inherently it was adapting the game and adapting creation of a sport and activity to your needs. Since then, multiple disciplines have grown, such as disc golf and ultimate Frisbee to mention, but the sport is really based having limited equipment adapted to a different space. It's mixed gender, similar to other sports on the panel, which is nice. We're having disciplines individual and team. It's self-officiated, so no referees. It's non-contact. So really all of these create the structure and the base to really position it to be a really good sport for all. So looking forward to this panel discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think just to get right into it, I mean, I think so already from our case studies, we saw that the IF level, they have an idea, they want to implement the sport for all. I know WIFDF is doing a lot. And Quadball is already, overlapping with a lot of Sport for All principles. But, when you're implementing these programs, what are the kind of challenges that you have? And I think maybe we'll start with the international, and then we'll kind of and talk about kind of what are your needs to implement these. And then I want to hear from the national about then what it's like being on the other side of that to actually to implement these Sport for All initiatives. So maybe Daniel, you can start with kind of what are the challenges in getting more Sport for All, getting these grassroots, getting people involved, and then what do you need from your from your members, from those people closer to the ground?
I think one of the main things we should be focusing on, and something which Carlos also talked on, is contacting like institutions to try and, in a way, normalize our sport, especially to try and get into the grassroots. Of course, you can go to one school and show your sport and hopefully go to another school. But if you do go to the institutional level to try and, I don't know, one of the things we found useful in Barcelona was to, I'm not sure how you call it in English, in Spain, it's like the Association of Parents for each school. So it's like they call it AMPAs. So in Barcelona, there's one like governing body that organizes all the mothers and like the parents organization of all the schools. So going to them and showing them how our sport can, like in our case, it's inclusive, it's mixed, it doesn't matter what physicality you have, there's a position for all of you. You can be slow, you can be fast, you can be tall, you can be short, it doesn't matter. And showing them how it's good for their kids, then they'd have more power to then go to the school and say, we would like this sport either shown or we would like. So rather than going to the small, as you were saying, like going to the small school, you go to the big and try and convince them. And hopefully that trickles down into the small. So it's sort of like what can they do for you to take work off of your hands? So then you can then invest, for example, also Carlos touched upon it, sponsorships. We find it quite hard at the moment because we're not considered a sport. I think we consider more like a physical activity, like legally. I think in Spain or in some countries in Europe, they have, because it's also a contact sport, quadball, so it's been determined like a variant of rugby. Because you could say quadball is sort of like a mix between rugby, dodgeball. So sometimes it is accepted as a variant of that when that does help us get in. I know especially all your sports here represented are definitely sports. Obviously, like floorball, it will be called floorball, but coming from hockey will have much bigger standing. I would say the disc of frisbee obviously is everywhere at the moment. I can't open Instagram Reels without having one sort of either disc golf or some sort of videos like showing. I mean, that's another side of it. Creating content, I think is something we need help at, especially in a micro level. So like maybe going to the local level of the clubs and the nationals, creating as much content as possible, because the more it's seen, the more it becomes accepted. The more it's accepted as a sort of from the general public, the more you can probably sell it to the higher ups, to the more sort of institutional level. That is something. Well, I'm in Bilbao, and one of the things that the Basque region do very well is the exposition. They create a load of content online, TikTok, Instagram. They get it out there. They create everyone commenting, loads of dynamics, and that's helped. In our case, for example, obviously we have World Cups. We celebrated the last World Cup in Belgium, in Brussels, and this social media dynamic has allowed us as the IQA to accept the Basque national team to join the other national teams as another participating team. From the beginning, that's another thing. One of the reasons our sport is kind of different is that we don't only accept national teams, we accept nations teams. So from the beginning of the sport, we've had Catalonia, for example, as its own national team. Not for anything political, to be honest. It started off mainly because our sport in Spain flourished in Catalonia first. So we had lots of teams in Catalonia, and no teams in the rest of Spain, so they asked to sort of be their own thing. So now we have the Catalan team, we have the Basque team. There is an unofficial tournament called the Nations Cup, which we hold in Salou every year, which is like a very big sport complex. We also have the Breton team from France. So that's something that on an international level, focusing on those areas of, in this case, Europe, where the sport is flourishing and helping them develop. Because if you help those areas develop, that will help the surrounding area develop. And then slowly, hopefully, again, the more media attention you get, the more online attention you get, I feel that the easier it'll be for the institutions to sort of accept you. And again, it'll all trickle down into society.
Yeah, and I think interesting to hear, and I think it is also reflecting of the stage you're at, like you mentioned. And so, Dillon, as you know, WIFDF, you're a bit more established in these areas. You have it. You know, what are your needs from your national federations when it comes to implementing the sport for all ideas you have?
Yeah, I think it's toolkits. So we're having diverse membership. They're all at different reality and different focus. So we added recently, and what they're focused on is growing the sport, accessing equipment. So providing the basic tools, whether that's value in kind equipment, but also the tools to go and implement in the school. For us, like the challenges as an IF, I think John said it from floorball the best in their case study is that we're actually not having any athletes. It's our national federations that are having the athletes. So it's a bit creating the relationships and the platform to build sport for all initiatives. So a really nice one is Special Olympics, is building a set of rules, building the relationship, and then disseminating that, which, and Daniel mentioned it quickly too, it's not necessarily our national federations that are the one leading this initiative. It's a different body that's increasing the grassroots participation in a specific target group. With our national federations and any organization is creating the tools. So I think Carlos and John mentioned creating toolkits so that they have kind of a turnkey solution. Any stakeholder within the sport at any level has kind of a turnkey solution to go into a school and implement or focus on the target group, adjust the rules, but creating kind of the base structure so that a good example for us is Ultimate is traditionally 7-on-7 on a large grass field. Building a specific rule set like the 3-on-3 for floorball creates the structure for the different levels of the sport to organize different initiatives like that to make the sport more accessible. So for us, the challenge is that we're not actually the owners or we're not having any athletes. So building assets and resources and relationships for
I think that's a great point. And I think as then the national federations with the athletes, I mean, so already thinking now to the next step, I mean, Chiara, what does Tchoukball Italy need from international Tchoukball to implement sport for all? You know,
Yes, I spoke with my colleague before to this webinar because of course it's there is a lot of needed and we have a list of things, but I avoid what Daniel and Dillon already said that absolutely I agree. What we need from International Federation is also build some simple event based on grassroots sport, because until now the event that have been organized by the International Federation has been only World Championship, Continental Championship, and so on in all category. I mean, junior, senior, but it's a kind of elite sport. Also for junior, it's just a small group, and you allowed one national team only to take part to the event. What we ask for to give also some motivation for training, because we have an event to take part, the international event, but on the level of grassroots sport, allowed more team for each nation, a kind of festival. In Italy, we have a festival that is on the beach. In our situation, is an international beach festival, and we have no limits of teams. Last May, we have 135 team coming with different categories, also the open category where we have families playing. This is an organization from our federation, what we ask to the International Federation is to do something similar also at international level, maybe starting from the continental level to reduce the cost of traveling, and in future also, but also change some policies that are less focused on the elite sport and more focused on the grassroots sport, like have toolkit material, video, having material, specific material for school and PE teacher that actually now International Federation doesn't have. Each national federation has its own, but having something that we can give also to the new federation, not yet structured, is a big help for the new people that is starting to promote Tchoukball in its own country. School is a key point. I am a PE teacher, already said, and in Italy, Tchoukball has born from a school group at the beginning, and out of school, growing up, the student, they helped me to build the federation because they want to continue to play. And school is the perfect place because of mixed gender sport with a ethic chart beside the rules that is very flexible in organization with cheap material and so on, is really the basis of development of the sport in a country, starting from school, obviously from university, where people is studying PE and where people is studying is still young. So affordable material, as already said, low cost material. Also, International Federation can try to not control the market, but anyway, help the market to be affordable. Because so especially practical. In Africa country, International Federation sent, someone doesn't know what is Tchoukball, but we have a structure and we have a net in this frame we call when we play. And delivery frames is very complicated. So we deliver only the net, that is the most complicated part to build, and locally they build. This is a great help. Material, without material, we cannot play. Help in material, donated material, and also volunteer. We have volunteer coach traveling to help new country and the basic level.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, international federations, I hope you're listening. She gave some very practical things that you can do that will help the national federation. Carlos, do you have anything to add to that? Or even if you could even start to think about what other stakeholders do we need in here? And I'll ask this question to the IFs too about, maybe it's not just a one-to-one. Is there other people you need to be involved in this?
Yeah, I think it's more than one-to-one. As Chiara said, there is a big problem on bringing materials, especially to some regions. She has mentioned Africa. I will also mention Latin America, and that's a big challenge. How to bring materials to many of the sports that we represent here, and it's not easy because I would say that being realistic and also supporting what Daniel said, yes, physical education is now considered, I will say, a very important subject in schools. But to be honest, most of the families, most of the people in society, they look to the big sports. They look to the medals. They look to the ones that are on television. They don't see us as a sport. They look us at an activity, recreational activity that sometimes is fun. And it is fun if you practice them. But when you go to ask for support, aid, that sometimes is only that they let you use the arena. No, you're not asking for money. You're not asking for, but it's football, for example, in my country, that football is a religion, or it's football, or it's basketball, or it's. And you can see, for example, I'm living in a small town. It's less than 20,000 people. And the football club, they have more than 50 teams. because since they are 6 years old, all of them are becoming Messi and Ronaldo. And is how it is. I'm a teacher myself, and I have include my sport floorball in the school, and it's been difficult. Once they practice, they like it. One day practice is like Daniel said, one day practice, they like it, but it's very difficult to implement out of your circle. As Chiara said, also volunteers, teachers that want to promote, but at the end, it's a personal bet. It's a personal bet of one person. But it's how it is. We have to create, we have to bring the sport to them. I think this is a very important strategy. We cannot wait and say, come on, you are coming to us and you will love our sport and you will practice sport. No, it will not happen. It will not happen. We have to knock every door several times and insist and say, hey, come on. As we say in Spanish, qué pesado. Yeah, but it is how it is. And also, I will say cooperation with other sports will be also great. Like, for example, I always compare it with the Olympics. You don't you look the Olympics, you follow the Olympics. You don't follow athletics or golf or tennis. You follow the Olympics. So creating like multi-sport, korfball, pickleball, floorball, some activities joining together, that will, I think, this could be a good strategy and a good idea to develop.
Yeah, definitely. I thank you
Sorry,
for
too
all the
long.
practical ideas. Yeah. Daniel, you want to weigh in? Also, if you have any other ideas of other stakeholders. I mean, we've heard schools, volunteers, other sports. I mean, yeah, who else needs to be involved? And also just responding to what Carlos just said.
Yeah, I just wanted to point in one of the great things you've said is, of course, parents maybe looking at the medals they're looking at. So one of the things which I found useful is in Germany, well, Germany and France in Europe at least is one of the biggest, and England, one of the biggest countries where there's a lot of quad ball at the school level. There are many teams, and Germany itself have organized like an international tournament for those levels. Until now, they've only been obviously like French and German teams, but I feel that having that up there, so like if I go to a Spanish school and say we want, like my thought is like starting small, is like saying go to 3 schools, introduce the sport so they can compete amongst each other, but telling them there is an European competition that you can aspire to. Like this is not just like a small thing between friends, between schools. Like there is a bigger thing that you can aim at. And I think having that sort of like superior competition in a way helps not so much motivate the kids, but also motivate maybe the parents or the teachers in a way to sort of say, look, there is an end game, which is making a team amongst yourselves to go up here. The other point, the Olympics thing, is something that we've always spoken about in our sort of circles. Like, how cool would it be to make a sort of like a big sort of tournament of tournaments where you have your korfball, you have your quadball, your Tchoukball, you have all those. We collaborate with locally with Jugger. Don't know if you're familiar with the sport, because we share a football pitch. We sort of like rent it together. So like collaborating with these smaller or aspiring sports to create this sort of international sort of like here we are kind of thing. So saying, I don't know, like with you, Carlos, if we got together with other sports in Spain and sort of organized like an Olympics sort of thing, say in Madrid or say in Salou, I mean, like something like that, I think that sort of collaboration or bringing the sports together, all the ages, all the genders together, that also helps creating sort of something that maybe individually we won't make as much noise. Like for example, we have the Spanish Cup, the Quadball Spanish Cup in 2 weeks in Madrid, in a village near Madrid. But it's a small village, so obviously not a lot of people will really care about it. But if we sort of say, oh, actually in Madrid we're doing an international thing, we have teams from all over Spain, all of these sports. that kind of working together and building together to make one big tournament, say like every 2 years, I think will help make I, well, this is what I was saying before, like you've got the attention of the media, the social media side, the institutions, you bring the schools to watch, schools where they do play at a lower level, say, especially like floorball, if they do play it in school and stuff, they're like, oh, let's go and watch. Um, One of the things I loved, and very quickly, one of the things I loved from a World Cup I went to in Florence in like 2018 is that there was a whole group of children from Germany who came to Florence just to watch the World Cup because they play at school and they convinced their parents and their teachers to do a trip to Florence just to come and watch the World Cup. And that's something I think is great and something we should try and aspire to.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And Chiara, you wanted to respond to that, and then we'll go over to Dillon to wrap up.
Okay. Yes, it was something we already have done that we realized that it worked is another option. We create courses for adult physical activity, and we put after the warm-up, some exercise and so on, we teach Tchoukball to the adult. And we realized that when adults have fun in playing, they decided to send kids to the Tchoukball courses because they realized that it's a good sport, that it's safe because we have no physical contact with, avoid like contrast and contact and so on. And there is no aggressivity, there is a very good environment, there's a spirit and so on. And this, we started in 2008 in Italy, but growing up, the group of adults, we made some pressure also to the International Federation. And since 2023, we have now the official category in the World Cup and in the European Continental Cups of over 40. And so now we have competition high level over 40. And, and 40 is a age of parents becoming parents and so on. Is a new generation of players that also send youth, kids to learn Tchoukball and to practice Tchoukball. This is a drop. It's a drop, of course. It's one of the aspects that we can also implement because when an adult realize that the sport is good and it's fun, it's safe, they send kids or student or youth to practice it.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can see it's not only from kids to parents, but parents to kids. Great. Dillon, any words to end us with on any other stakeholders that could be of help or just any other reflections?
Yeah, I think Danny and Carlos mentioned, and Chiara, they all mentioned volunteers, and I think it's not necessarily the national team coach, it's not necessarily the physical education teacher, but equipping the activity leader with the basic skills to introduce the sport, which isn't necessarily a high performance technical person, but making sure whoever is leading the activity has the information and confidence, let's say, of working with the technical side of the sport, introducing it. And then just based on the target group, I know we're talking a lot about grassroots and school and kid focus, but there are other target groups. So collaborating with these NGOs that aren't necessarily, or these organizations aren't necessarily the experts in sport technical, not necessarily the national federations, whether that's older adults and the elderly, homeless, refugees, LGBTQ, is building these relationships with these organizations that can use framing the sport. So it's not necessarily a high performance endeavor. It's important the pathways to compete at international level, but this is not necessarily the focus or the purpose of sport for all for these target groups. So kind of framing the sport and creating the opportunity for the sport to be played at different levels and for a specific purpose, not necessarily the high performance. And then I think like defaulting to the familiar, as basketball, football, and soccer, that it's framing the sport too of it's different, and that's for some of the developing or niche sports that the Tchoukball or some of the other disciplines. I had no idea it was mixed gender, but framing that within the schools or within the different target group set. This is a huge benefit for us. We're using this we had a project last year with prisoners, and our sport is self-officiated ultimate. And we frame that as a tool for conflict resolution in a very specific target group and context. And I think that probably by default, basketball and football would be used, but because we frame that, it created a different opportunity for different target groups.
Thank you. Thank you. So I would love to extend this conversation, but we need to move forward with our session. Thank you for all of our panelists for joining and all of your honest discussions in our conversation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So as Jean-François mentioned in his opening, one of the aims of this webinar was not only to discuss, but also to showcase some practical tools that Interact has developed to help international and national sport federations in the very actions that we've been talking about. So in the work that they do at the grassroots level. So if you give me a moment to share my screen, I can show you these tools and how you can bring them to your organization. All right, so the Interact Plus training and label. So we'll hear from Dillon that was in our panel about their experience in it, but I just want to show you the high level of kind of some background about how we developed this and why we developed it and how we think it can help. So in the background of just all the challenges that we've talked about, COVID pandemic limiting sport, then that the international sport organizations and their national federations struggle to attract people, and our levels of physical inactivity are increasing all over the world. I mean, so we need to strengthen our international and national federations. As Aurélie mentioned, we've done research about exactly what barriers we need to remove in order to foster benefits at the international sport organization level, higher levels, the sport club level, and then all the way down to the international level that will increase sport membership, which will, in the end, increase physical activity. The first of these tools is the Sport for All capacity building training. So the training includes information that will be relevant at the kind of higher level and then all the way down to the ground. So Sport for All in an international environment, about the institutional frameworks we work in, the role of sport organizations, but then going into more practically structuring Sport for All within the organization. So as we saw, different organizations have different levels already about what they're doing in Sport for All. So how do we meet organizations where they're at? This training meets organizations where they're at in terms of then how to upskill and develop here. So the leadership and management, policy making, and integrating it. And then finally, all the way down to even the granular of designing Sport for All initiatives. So how do you design events for specific purposes and target groups, design initiatives, some things like Chiara mentioned, exactly what kind of events do you need? And then how to overcome barriers to implement these. And so all of these it's a very interactive training, lots of discussions, lots of group presentations to even get these sport representatives. How do they stand up in front of the board of directors and talk about what they want? You know, we want to have them doing that in the training. The training can look a lot of different ways. So we've had physical trainings. You can see us in person, but it also can be adapted to online. So that's a great way to bring together people without travel costs, but also if you already have people coming into an area, coming in for a championship, it's a great way to also have a bit of more team building, have a bit more practical offerings for the people that have already come so far. We've had already 8 of these trainings, reaching representatives from 99 different organizations in 55 countries with over 175 participants. So we have had a nice target group already that we've been able to reach, that we've been able to see how these trainings are going. And so far they've gone great. They're always really satisfied with it. They liked it, they welcomed it. And when we talk to the organizations, it really fits their needs about what they needed to up level to the next step. Some of the specific things that people say are that it allows for a mindset change, so a new way of seeing sport for all. Maybe it's great also from this translation from the IF to the NF. Networking, that they're able to work closely with their peers, kind of make these face-to-face connections that really strengthen collaboration. They have more confidence in when they're talking about these sport for all. And then they do learn practical applications. So they learn exactly how to draft policies, plan initiatives, improve communication, and then also take these learnings further. If you are interested in this course, we are right now launching a call for interest. So if you scan the QR code on the screen, that will take you to a survey where you can fill out your information. You can also find more information about the training. Then don't want to overload you here, at the Interact website. So interact-sport.com, and capacity building training, you'll see the link. So you can apply for that now, and we want to get trainings for 2026 set up. So our Sport for All label, so if the training was made more for the representatives at sport organizations and kind of the actions they're taking, this was made to support the IFs and the NFs in being able to state this is our Sport for All status and able to advertise that. So it allows you to take a full stock of where are you with Sport for All? Where are you at? And what is the next level to improve? You have then recognition and credibility. So if this is something that's important when you're going out to schools, going out to other stakeholders, you'll be able to showcase that we have this level, and I'll show you the levels later, and then that it shows a roadmap for growth. So this label, it focuses on the three main areas of policy, strategy, and management within your organization: spaces and sport facilities, and then programs, events, and initiatives. And so within these headings, we have multiple subheadings to be a bit more specific. In all, it's 30 items. So it's not too overwhelming to fill out. You can do it all text-based, just kind of talking. You can also attach documents to make things easier. And the levels are on the right-hand side. So it goes from diamond, platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, Sport for All certification. Here's what you'd see on the platform. So I'll share the link to the platform later. And here as you answer the criteria, as I mentioned, we have 30 items. You can see the different policy, spaces, and the programs, and then answering, and then you'll get a rating. So how exactly this works? So step one is you would register your organization. So again, you can find a direct link to this on the Interact website, but this is a QR code that goes directly to the registration. Here you answer the 30 criteria. An auditor will score your organization, and then you'll receive your certification level, you'll receive the logos, and you'll receive a certificate, as well as TAFISA will do some promotion for your organization, advertising your Sport for All status. So if you have any questions about these tools, you can reach out to us at info@tafisa.org directly. But again, the Interact website, which we'll link in the chat, also has answers to these questions. And you can reach out to us there as well. All right, so as the Interact project lead, TAFISA has played a large role in planning and implementing the trainings and the creation of the label, and will continue to manage the sustainability of the project in the future. But we wanted to show everyone and have you hear from an organization that has worked closely alongside the project. So Dillon will share World Flying Disc Federation's experience with these tools. So Dillon, the floor is yours, and you can talk about your experience here. Yes.
Great. So yeah, thank you very much to Rachel and to TAFISA and the Interact partners for the opportunity to speak. We're really excited. We really are passionate about our relationship with TAFISA and also really enjoyed the Interact Plus project as a whole. So happy to share a little bit about our journey, about our federation and our journey with the Interact Plus project. So I think, as I mentioned in my introduction, as part of the panel, so the World Flying Disc Federation is the international sports federation for flying disc sports. So what you may know as Frisbee. We're having 5 key sport disciplines. So disc golf and ultimate are the most popular in terms of participation, but we're also having freestyle, which is more artistic discipline, guts, which is maybe a modified version of dodgeball, let's say, and overall, which is a bit like decathlon, a multi-sport or a multi-discipline event like athletics. We are recognized and we have relationships in the sport movement. So we're IOC, IPC recognized, all this, and we're having 122 national federations across the different regions. So just to frame, typically international sport federations, they're talking about high performance events, but going back to even what the IOC defines what the responsibility of an IF is, we kind of realize that it's not only managing world championships, but it's also supporting our national federations in promoting and growing our sport. And just positioning our sport, so flying disc sports, we think it's ideal in the sport for all movement. So it's inexpensive. It could be adapted and practiced in different venues with different spaces. It's mixed gender. We're having individual and team disciplines. It's having this immediate activation. It's not like a team you throw. Everyone has this experience. The majority of people have this experience of throwing the discs between each other, and you're experiencing that immediate success, whether it's on a beach, at the park, anything like this, without that formalized game. So you're experiencing this feeling. Our rules are quite simple. The technical rules, it's not so advanced to like pick up and play, let's say. Even some of our disciplines, it's self-officiated. So it's not having the structure needed to run games. So even at our world championships, we're not having referees or judges that are managing the game. So we're having this from the grassroots level all the way to elite, and it's non-contact. So there is this inherent. I mentioned this in the panel. So the first Frisbee it had on the back this play catch event game. So inherently within the sport, or as the activity or the tool needed to play the sport was developing, there was this idea of modifying the sport exactly to your needs. And we're seeing through the different disciplines, we're seeing that. So for families within the gym context, playing as kids at the park, older adults playing disc golf on the street, playing or practicing or jamming, as they call it, freestyle at the beach, and within different contexts. So kind of our journey with the Interact Plus project started with this capacity building course. So TAFISA, one of the cohorts they ran was for international federations in Switzerland. So we were lucky enough to attend and experience it from the perspective as an IS. And I think it was really helpful to define, kind of start our journey in defining what we characterize as sport for all and how it applies to our sport and kind of action planning related to that. We were lucky enough a few months later in January of this year to host it specific for our national federations. So we had around 50 participants from 35 national federations participate in a cohort specific to our sport, which is a huge benefit. One of the facilitators was from our sport, which is really nice. I believe he's on this call. So Jörg Benner and Mesa from the International Table Tennis Foundation, which does amazing projects, which I think it was really unique to have someone from our sport, but also someone from another sport to offer this different perspective through this journey. I think it was really interesting for our national federations that we're having national federations that never engaged in any of our high performance events. The idea of our US National Federation that has so much capacity, so much budget, and this additional focus on sport for all, maybe they didn't define it so well, with a country like Afghanistan, with Brazil, with Chinese Taipei, that they don't have this interaction. They're not really seeing what they're doing. So being able to connect them, to share different perspectives, to share different realities, I think was a huge benefit, and to share resources. And since then, we've continued this as a bit of a community of practice, so sharing kind of the ongoing learnings. And then, yeah, similar in January 2025, we started the process to get the sport for all recognition or certification. And it was really a really nice self-reflection process. So for us, it was we were able to define the target groups, purposes, and venues. So using the TAFISA and the Interact Plus resources, I think it did a really good job of lots of the activities we were doing, but we weren't labeling it necessarily as sport for all. And then kind of understanding better our role as an IF so that we weren't on the ground implementing, but how we our kind of spheres of influence, that how we could position ourselves to best promote and structure sport for all within our sport. And it was internally we engaged different departments and commissions, so really seeing what everyone was doing, working with our events team and saying, hey, how can we define our venues? Working with our different discipline committees of saying, hey, how are these the former rules? How can we adapt these so it's more open, and creating the resources and tools to do so? And we're very proud in April, a few months later, to be recognized as the first ever Diamond label for all certification. Yeah. Okay, since then we've really gone on to action. Some of the things that we're talking about. So we developed a sport for all strategy and action plan, and this was a direct result of this certification process, creation of a sport for all commission. So I think the idea was spread throughout the organization, but not so formalized. So we were able to formalize this within the bylaws. So we have a dedicated commission really focused on this, and then targeting with different action, with different targeting activities with different target groups. We were doing through our national federations and kind of creating the case studies related to this. So similar, we were lucky enough for a women and girls to host certification course in collaboration with TAFISA. So we were able to reach 65 of our national federations through this, supporting a refugee project, supporting a prisoner project, supporting Indigenous projects, and different target groups directly through our NFs, but then also using these as case studies within our community for our other national federations to learn and kind of have these turnkey resources or store project concepts to implement within their context or outside of our national federations, different NGOs or groups that are looking for sports to see, hey, this works, here's the reason why. So hosting our para championships, esports, trying to engage different people, and really we're focused on creating these turnkey resources. So I know we talked earlier, the discussion went about toolkits and curriculums for schools, but really building the resources that what we're seeing our national federations, and it's happening in all sports, that everyone is recreating the wheel. That is one national federation or one community is creating a curriculum for their context, and it's important to be context specific. But there's our federation in Uganda is building from zero a curriculum specific to a target group. So trying to centralize that, trying to work with our membership, which they've been really supportive of. And one of the key things we've done also is created a learning management system to kind of centralize and disseminate that, also with the monitoring and evaluation. So we launched WIFTIF Academy, which is our learning website that anyone can access from their phone. So whether you're riding the bus to work, you can access courses, whether you're in Central African Republic in an internet cafe, you're able to access the different resources and earn certifications, so kind of disseminating the technical skills related to our sports, but also the resources to be able to implement in this context. And we're really trying to eliminate this barrier to access education and resources. So there's no membership fee. Anyone with an email could sign up. Happy to share the link in the chat. So if you're all interested in taking out flying this course, be very happy to do so. But we're able to have really, really positive reach. And then a bit about relationships, as I mentioned in the panel. So we're signing and activating MOUs and relationships. So trying to advance relationship with Special Olympics for different target groups. Some unique ones like World Scouts, the World Youth Clubs, which is Boys and Girls Club, kind of international. So outside of our national federations, we're trying to create the structure for our national federations to collaborate, or for these other organizations to use our sports for good. And just some highlight of some photos, what we're able to do since then. So implementing on the ground, running the esports championships, joining the sport for inclusion coalition, developing some turnkey resources. It's been a really positive experience. And just to highlight that, so we recently had our high performance World Beach Ultimate Championships. We had around 38 members, which is about 31% of our membership. And through these Sport for All kind of initiatives, we engaged 108 national federations. This is about 80% or 88% of our membership, which is a really positive thing that not all of our members have the opportunity, the luxury to attend high performance events, but they're still our members equally as anybody else. So trying to service them and engage them and provide the resources and opportunities to be involved in our sport. And I think this is a really positive thing that we talked about it in the panels, but like growing the base, and we're doing that through some of these initiatives. And yeah, growing the popularity of our sport, the exposure. Daniel mentioned seeing kind of the TikTok clips on social media of disc golf, but it's really true. It's this isn't necessarily high performance athletes. These are recreational athletes. These are recreational participants. And this is what we want to do. We want our sport to be accessible. We want our sport to reach different target groups and not necessarily be solely high performance. I think that's a really beautiful thing. We want to build the pathways that there's opportunity, but the purpose of sport isn't necessarily to go to the Olympics or to go to the World Championships. It's to be physically active or to socialize with friends, and really trying to frame our sports and create the structure to allow that as a national federation. So really proud kind of this impact we were able to make through these different initiatives and the foliage, and be able to monitor this as well. And just related to the topic, or the topic of questions, so the benefits of investing in Sport for All. So clearly the awareness and visibility. I think the Sport for All label, it really put like a flagpole to our membership that this is important, and these are the target groups we're focusing on. Our sport isn't only high performance world championships, but we're focused on these different target groups and kind of encouraging them to do so. And we're really proud of our annual general meeting to highlight this recognition, but really to announce this and say, this is our priority for our national. It's reflected a little bit in our strategic plan, but the relationship with TAFISA and the Interact Plus label really kind of highlighted this. Through the different target groups, it's growing the participation. So we're able to increase that, not necessarily with elite high performance athletes, but athletes in general, or participants in general, which I think is a positive thing. And I think the trickle effect of that long term, whether they become formal members of a national federation, or they're informally playing, I think that's a really positive thing. We all want the sport to grow. We all, maybe with bias, love our own disciplines, our own sport, but creating that interest. And I think that people default to football or soccer, and people go to basketball because it's popular, and kind of planting the seed of participation, not necessarily of licensed registered athletes through the different target groups, really allows this the positive impact. So we want to do good for the world, and I think these Sport for All initiatives really do that. So I mentioned quickly, we did a project with South Africa with prisoners, and I think it's like having a direct positive impact on some of these participants' lives, and using our sport for good. Kind of these are all interlinked. That we're building the awareness, we're building the visibility, we're increasing the participation, but really we're having a direct impact on people's lives, and we're creating that sense of inclusion. So where there might not be the pathways and there might not be the opportunities for people to be involved, but we're making our sport more inclusive. Or this story with prisoners that after leaving prison, the participant actually joined Ultimate Frisbee in his community, which is a really beautiful thing, and I think something pretty atypical for most sport organizations. So they're all interlinked, and I think they're all having benefits, but it's been a really positive experience for us. And I've talked a lot very quickly, but happy to share some links and resources. We're really thankful for the collaboration with TAFISA and the Interact Plus partners in this journey, and really proud, of this label and the future work that we're doing, and happy to share with the different federations.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dillon, for the presentation and all your work in the project. We're very happy to see the benefits that it's had for your organization, and then the trickle down into all the people that can participate in it. Thank you very much. So as I mentioned in my presentation, we linked in the chat a call for interest for our capacity building trainings. The label is also live, and if you can fill in the criteria before the end of the year, we currently have free auditing of the label. More information can always be found at the Interact website. And so we wanted to also invite you. So to continue this conversation, we will be next week, Tuesday, December 2nd at 12 o'clock. We will be having a meeting for international and national federations, specifically to discuss this kind of more in depth than what we could get into in the panel. And it won't be a webinar format, it'll be a meeting format. So we have an initial sign-up sheet that we just linked in the chat. So if you're interested in attending, we're just advertising this right now to our attendees here. We invite you to take a look, and then we'll send you some information here in the next, we'll probably send out the registration then on Monday. Sorry, Chiara, did you have one thing before I continue? Okay, sorry.
No worries. Looking at the time, I may ask the question to Dillon in another moment aside, because I see that the clock is already, we are already out of the time.
If you're available on Tuesday, that actually would be, I think we'll invite both of you on Tuesday, and if you are available. But yeah, I think we're over the time, unfortunately.
Yes, we are over the time. So it's really maybe a question that is more interesting between us than in general. Yeah. So I don't want to spend more time for the people that maybe must leave.
I know we always need more time, but we get feedback that we need to stay on time. It's tough for us.
Yes. Topics is so interesting, things are many, and so of course, Dillon, we keep in touch. I saw your email address. I will ask you aside or in a call.
All right. And then to everyone, we appreciate you answering our post-webinar survey that comes up when you leave the webinar today. It helps us to continually improve. And finally, I want to thank all of our speakers, our panelists, my colleagues at TAFISA supporting the webinar, and most importantly, our audience members today. Thank you so much for attending and for your active participation. We hope you have a great rest of the day. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinars, maybe this meeting next week. And yes, have a great rest of the day. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you for the great inspiration in your presentation. Thank you very much. Yes. Keep in touch for the next.
Yes.
Yeah,
bye.
Keep in
touch.
Bye.
Bye.